So we've got a wonderful panel. I will let you all introduce yourself, but we've got Niall, Andrea, Holly and Sam. Would you like to introduce yourselves and tell us who you are?
I'm Sam Humphreys. I am a former travel agent, that's true, and I work for XBeam, and I'm also on committee with you lovely people, and I've also been at InfoSec this week, so speaking is now hard because I'm very tired, so please lower your expectations, thank you.
Can everyone hear at the back? No. Can everyone move forward? We've got a bit of an issue with mics, so we want to record this, so if everyone moves forward, if you're at the back, then you'll definitely
There's
hear.
loads of space down the front, saying.
Yeah, let's get cosy. Let's get cosy with Rosie.
That's your new podcast.
That's it, yeah. That's a new name.
Sunday night, Cozy Rosie.
We heard it first.
Have you got OnlyFans?
No one wants to see this.
Someone does. Always someone does.
Always. So, introduce yourself again, Sam.
I'm Sam Humphreys, and I am a millionaire. That's not what I said last time. I work for XBeam. I'm on committee.
For most B-sides.
All of them. That's not true. All the northern ones, but I don't live in the north, so that's weird. And I was at InfoSec this week, so I've run out of words, mostly. So, yeah, lower your expectations was the bit that two people down the front laughed at before. So, cool.
Hi, my name's Holly Grace Williams. I break into computers for a living, and I've brought some of my best words today.
Good. Thank you.
Follow that. Andrea Cullen. I'm one of the co-founders of Caps Lock. I've had a really people-y week, and I'm autistic, and I was super worried about saying something inappropriate, so thanks to the previous speaker, that should say it. Anything else is going to be good. So yeah, pleased to meet you.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm Niall Clark. I'm a relative local to the area, so I know some of you from work and studies and other things. Attendee at DC 151, run the Splunk user group in Yorkshire, and I'm here with Spectrox today as a sponsor.
Okay. So we're going to go worst fuck up. So there's going to be swearing. So if there's any children... Sorry. So Niall, go on then. Tell me your worst ever fuck up.
Yeah, sure. So I really like this question. This is something I used to ask people in interviews. I might probably ask some of the people in the room this in interviews because it's generally hilarious and it's usually a bit of a growth story and you've learned something as well. So my start in the InfoSec industry, sort of 13, 14 years ago, was in the vendor space, in a network security vendor. One day, real early hours of the morning, I got a phone call. It's unusual. It took me a sort of few attempts to wake me from my slumber. And when I got the call, it was someone really senior in the business, one of the execs, a sales director, I think, saying, "No, we've got a problem." I've been receiving a call, and I'm thinking, again. If anyone's had to deal with sort of customers, clients, sometimes you get problems. It's not really a big deal. Someone in Australia was having an issue, I believe. And I said, well, is it really that big a problem? And he was like, no, Niall, yes. I've had a call from like our main distributor for the APAC region. And as people are coming online, their systems are down, kaput, no internet access. It's failed, closed. Like there's nothing doing. This is pretty catastrophic. So, as you do, I was up out of bed, fire out the laptop, VPN, log in, coffee, get in there. Got into the weeds of what it was. Basically, a deploy that had gone out the previous working day in the UK, put in place by yours truly, had delivered a bunk signature update to the entire fleet worldwide, just by the nature of time zones and the way these things worked. As the unlucky folks in APAC, as the sun came up, their systems went down. So I was drafted in to kind of own up to it, work out what went wrong, and scrabble to fix this. We didn't really have a way of recovering it at the time, so we invented it on the fly. That is a story that many people have similar ones, and the reason I like these interviews and other things is when these things happen to you, it's always a case of, what did you learn and what did you do about it? I'm a real fan of the whole mantra that, there's no such thing as human error. The book about it, Sidney Dekker, I think, wrote it around like safety and flights and things like that. It's a great opportunity when these things happen in your orgs to have a talk about root causes, why these things happened, why a single human error can lead to certain catastrophic outcomes. And, this is something we get out of incident response for those of us involved in that kind of thing, going into postmortems, understanding why things happen in IT ops and understanding how we get to these places and putting in protections to stop it happening again. Yeah, never waste a good crisis is the bottom line.
Andrea, would you like to tell me a war story?
Yeah, why not, eh? I'm not going to own this one, but I'll just kind of talk you around what happened. So it happened to somebody else. It's like going into the chemist and saying, I want to get something and it's not for me. So I'm just going to talk you around what happened. I used to work in this organisation that used to provide a managed service, and this managed service was so secure that they had it on the 3rd or 4th floor. You couldn't take a pen in there. You couldn't take anything into the room. All the curtains were down because they were scared that a drone was going to fly past. He was going to see something, goodness knows what, because there was nothing to be seen. So it was really nailed down. But at the end of every month, there was a report sent to the managed service division to tell them exactly what had happened and all the outcomes of this service. And what happened was it was in a spreadsheet, as these things always are, and this spreadsheet was emailed round to the wrong people with hidden fields in it, and basically it had all the data of everything that nobody needed to see, emailed to pretty much everybody, which was bad enough, because that's a little bit of a no-no, wasn't it? It was a real crisis and people were called in from everywhere. But on the back of this, they thought it was a really good idea, and I think this is the biggest learning point for me. They thought it was a really good idea to email everybody after this and say to them, please don't open that email. It contained really confidential information you shouldn't read. Please make sure you delete it. So I think it went up from being opened by maybe 2 people to the whole of the business.
Wow, that is, yeah. Don't look at this. Holly, I'm not going to ask you for a war story, because I know you are a military
I might have prepared one.
Oh, if you want to tell us a war story, you can tell us a war story.
Go ahead with your question, and then we can decide which one's better.
Yeah. What's your worst fuck-up?
Oh, man. So, I think I can answer both of those questions in the same story, actually. So, I once had a summer holiday to Kabul that got out of hand. And I was on a rooftop of a building trying to get a system called a VSAT to work. If you've never come across VSAT, if you've seen Starlink, it's like that, right? A very small aperture terminal. It's a satellite communication system. And I couldn't get it to work. And the problem is I was third line support. So I was like the person that people call when stuff isn't working. And I couldn't get it to work at all. Spent a huge amount of time, doing the layer 8 thing. Like, am I doing something stupid? Are all of the cables working? Is all the software working? Got absolutely nothing out of it. And I went through kind of methodology line by line. And I eventually ended up with the civilian support network on the phone, trying to explain to them that this satellite communication system is not working. And they did the exact same thing. Anyone who's rang an ISP before, right, you know what it's like. It's just a satellite ISP and this type of thing. Have you tried turning the router off and on again and all of that? And I'm like, I'm on a rooftop right now. I don't really want to be here, but let's play this game. And I went through absolutely everything. And it turns out, would you believe it or not, that the problem was my compass pointed south. That was what the problem was. So I'm supposed to be pointing out the direction of where the satellite is to get the link in, and my compass was broken. So, it was broken in such a way that it literally pointed south, as in it wasn't north, it was south. So I was facing just the wrong direction. So I think the lesson from that is test your kit. And I think it's sometimes a bit silly when we have conferences like this where people stand at the front and they talk about like patch management and strong passwords and multi-factor authentication things. I think most people in the room, professionals within cybersecurity, know all of that stuff. But I think one of the things that often goes wrong is things get implemented and you don't check that it's actually working until you're on a rooftop on a summer holiday that's gone a bit far.
I love that. Right, Sam, do you want to tell me your worst fuck-up?
I don't fuck up. I do. It was my first wedding. There you go. Can I tell a war story instead? I used to work at McAfee. I'm really sorry, anyone who's had McAfee stuff. That's why I had to do a lot to apologise. And on the 21st of April, 2010, at 14:32, we released an update that broke every single XP machine that we could talk to. And we deleted SVC hosts. And I got the first message from support with someone saying, Kier's in here. Kier's in here? Kier's there. Kier sent me a message. saying, have the DATs gone out? And I was like, no, they don't go out till 3. Somebody pressed the button early. And it was like what dominoes happening. So the first call, I'm like, okay, trying to troubleshoot. Is it this? Can we do that? Don't know, find out. And then we got a bank come in and say that 10,000 machines just fell over. And it was like being hit by a truck, because my incident response brain sees like knock-on effects in the most horrible, accurate way that we were going to be in the office for a very, very long time. And Macri tried to play it down and be like, oh, it's just a few percentage of machines. It was loads. Like, automatic updates are really good because they're really fast until there's something in it that deletes a key system file from pretty much every endpoint that you talk to. And there was a lot of shouting. There were some great moments. We went to InfoSec and Symantec had paid some homeless people, I think, to stand outside in hoodies that said, that 5958, you're only supposed to blow the bloody virus up. All right, fair, all right, that's, yeah. And then a week in, we come up with a way to do this, because it was SneakerNet up until that problem. Did anyone actually experience this, by the way? I can't run very fast. It wasn't me anyway, but we came up with a wake-up on LAN solution that finally wasn't walking around every single machine. And the symptom you got when you got 5958 was the machines would go into a reboot loop. So engineering got on the call and they were like, right, we've got this. There's a little gotcha though. If you leave the disk in the drive, you'll find all the machines go into a reboot loop. And at that point, I think I lost my mind, because we came up with a fix that actually just created the same problem, and I hadn't slept for about 7 days. So yeah, that's up there, I think, with war stories.
How long did it take to fix it? How long was
some
the
customers
background?
just got on and just did the SneakerNet. We were trying to get the DATs off the update servers. I was dealing with a lot of Americans. Sorry, any Americans in the room, but it didn't help. So they wouldn't believe me that maybe getting the update off the update server would be a really good idea. So it was a long time, wasn't it, Keir? We were good. More than that, I think. It never stopped, it felt like. And then we had a party for it the next year and everyone thought that was in really bad taste. But yeah, so that was about as catastrophic as it got.
Okay. Thank you. So, if you had a silver bullet to make businesses or people more secure, and this is a question for everybody, we know we love silver bullets, what would your silver bullet be, Niall?
Okay. So I've been working in like a consultancy role for the past 4 years. So I'm going to be the guy who gives the standard, like, it depends consultancy answer. There is no silver bullet, really. And I suppose just to, hopefully someone else will engage with it a bit more directly, just to kind of drill down on kind of why I say that. Cybersecurity is kind of an InfoSec in general regarded as like a complex problem. I'm not going to attempt to define complex, because there's some like really smart people with PhDs like John Atkinson in the room, but essentially lots of moving parts that you can't decompose easily to and kind of understand the whole by looking at any one particular part of it. And that's kind of part of the philosophy around like why Spectrops talk about attack paths, and like Jared, our like chief strategist, talks about this a lot. Nassim Taleb, just author of the Black Swan, he has cited cybersecurity as a complex problem. So I don't really think there is a silver bullet for that reason. The problems are complex. We hope we've got a tool that helps simplify some of it, but this stuff's going to keep us all in work.
And then Andrea, what's your silver bullet?
Yeah, I wish I had something smart or funny to say at this point, but I'm out of both for those things. I think for me, having worked in loads of different sectors, that most sectors start with a compliance approach. In that's where they kind of head in. That's the essential bit. That's the bit that's kind of slapping them around the face. And then they look at risk. So risk gets tied into compliance. I think my silver bullet, and I'm not even sure this is a bullet or even silver, but here we go, is to, you can tell the Asper bit, sorry. It's been a long week. Is to put risk first ahead of compliance rather than the other way around, and to kind of just consider the big picture of risk of which compliance is a part. So it would be to do.
What about you, Holly?
I think kind of optimizing towards leaving people with something they can take away and like actually implement, rather than like, oh man, this is a hard problem, is what Lisa spoke about in the Blue Note, for anyone who saw that. It's tabletop exercises. So sitting down and walking through something like a breach response, And the reason I picked that in particular is I think a lot of people are already familiar with like pen testing and vulnerability analysis and a lot of the stuff that I usually talk about. But my experience with organizations is very, very few organizations do those kind of tabletops. And the first time you do one, they go horrendously, but in like a really good way, where the company actually gets like right in the face of, oh, we are bad at this. Because it's hard, isn't it? You know, like finding a missing patch can be as easy as running a vulnerability scan. Finding systems getting compromised can be as easy as a pen test. And then you kind of feel like, oh, at some point we'll install that patch and that problem's solved. But the actual complexity that comes from dealing with a breach, especially when the other side of that negotiation is not necessarily on your side, I think that's a good thing. So if anyone wants like something they can take away in terms of what is your organization's silver bullet, and you haven't been doing tabletop incident response scenario testing, that is what I would recommend.
What about you, Sam?
I'm gutted I have to go after that answer because that was great. All those answers, in fact. It's not a silver bullet as such, but I think we, as an industry, we need to stop the whole like, the user, problem exists between keyboard and chair, right, or desk. It's not helping. We should be able to put our arms around the users and not. It almost feels lazy that we're like, oh yeah, stupid users, they cause all the problems. Going in with that attitude, I literally kind of, it shifts the blame away from us, from our crappy budgets that we get, and it's our job to secure people. They don't have to know security. They shouldn't have to know security. They can go and be experts in whatever it is they do, and we're there to protect them as much as the systems that we look after. So I'd get rid of moaning about stupid users, because they're not stupid. They're really better at loads of stuff than us. But they do click stuff, and if that's the only line of defence, sorry about you.
Love it. So one final question for you all. We don't want to talk about community. B-Sides is a community, and everybody here, thank you so much for supporting us. What would you like to see less of or more of in the community?
So I guess community, B-Sides is a community. There's, the very online kind of Twitter community is another. I think for that aspect, like all the kind of online stuff, I think it's important that we recognise that the people who are really active on like Twitter and really online, and even the people who come to conferences it's actually a pretty small subset and kind of microcosm of practitioners in the industry at large. So I think it's worth like being cognizant of that. I mean, in terms of that space particularly, I think my advice would be that we could be nicer in that arena, just generally, a bit more civil. But to kind of broaden that point out, I suppose, like if you look at like the UK, for example, like most employment, most turnover is actually in small, medium businesses. So they're like completely not engaged with like what we're talking about here. They're not engaged with Twitter dramas. They're not really in the same place. So, and to not seem like a hypocrite, because SpectreOps, we work at the higher end of the industry and like advanced attacker behaviour, characterising that and defending against that. But I think what's really helpful is for organisations who do work in that space is to think about how we can make that trickle down to more broadly in the community and the industry. So, I mean, to put a concrete point on like what that would look like, to be more specific, open sourcing software solutions, writing blog posts, sharing research, things like that, offering training courses, webinars. These are all things that some of the big techs do. We certainly, it's an important part of our philosophy at SpectreOps. Our CEO wrote a blog post called Push Towards Transparency, which kind of details some of this approach. You can check out the GitHub for some of the open source projects. And I think there's some notable people who are doing that. Like I say, some of the big techs have done some cool stuff, like Palantir, Slack, Microsoft have doing some great stuff, and just making that more accessible.
Brilliant. What about you, Andrea?
I think it is all about community. I think community and diversity probably. I mean, I'm never more pleased to be a woman in an environment like this because the toilet queue is tiny. And no matter where else you go, you can guarantee you're around the block waiting. So I think diversity, definitely, more diversity. More community. I love B-Sides. I know we're a big fan. And I think that kind of community spirit wins through. I think it is about joining as a community. Yes, less of, probably the obvious one for me is drama. I'm not great with it. I like it. We all do made-up jobs, let's be honest. We're not generally making anything or anything like that. But I think it is that let's just crack on and get on with our jobs and do the best we can be, and actually embrace the community and give everybody a hand up, So more of that, and here, what can I do that's going to help and support and help you progress? So definitely all about community.
Great answer. What about you, Holly?
What I'd like to see more of is please submit to CFPs. I've been on the CFP review board for a few conferences now, and very often the number of submissions and how few there are would surprise you. And also it can be the case that there's many submissions that are all around the same kind of topic because something is in the news or something is the current fashion. So there could be several talks. If you've ever submitted and had not been selected, someone else has been selected on a similar topic, that could be why. That conference might have had 5 people all want to hit the same topic and then not had that many other submissions. So yeah, if you've enjoyed B-sides and if you have something that you think is cool, there's probably other people who would agree with you. So I'd love to see an increase in the number of CFP submissions.
I'm going to build on that a little bit. I'd like to see more CFP submissions that aren't just the code and the O days and the here's my talk. They're all really good, and I love seeing those events. There's a lot of other skills beyond coding that could be shared, and you might think, well, surely everyone knows this. I guarantee you, every talk I've been to, I've always taken something away. Even if it's something that I know really, really well, just getting a different perspective is helpful. So it might be a soft skill thing. It might just be some sort of comparison you're drawing between something you do in your life to cybersecurity, and that may help you in your cybersecurity world. But if you've got an idea, I'd bounce it off someone from B-sides that's already involved in that. Please, more of those. And we like having loads of different talks. I also agree with the no drama, please. And the last thing I think just is being kind, not just to each other, but to yourself. Because I think we work in really stressful environments. And we're always thinking, do I know enough? Imposter syndrome's kicking in. What we do is amazing. It really is. We help the world innovate. We help the world be better. And we're never going to be great all the time. There's always going to be stuff to do, which is important. But just look at yourself sometimes and be really proud of what you do working in cybersecurity, because it is awesome. So pick up your bad selves.
Nice.
So do we have time for questions? Has anyone got any questions for the panel?
Sure, but make them really spicy.
And nothing to do with what we just said.
We've got no prizes.
Yeah. No? Yeah, he's on. Yep.
So you talked about engaging better with users, and I think one of the great approaches I found at least is a yes and attitude when people come to you with questions or things. So I'd like to ask the panel for examples where they have responded with a yes and to any inquiry they've had or thing going on within the business.
That's a tough one. Who wants to go
I've got a thing I can add on that. I think if anything good comes of a pandemic, which a lot of bad came of it, but the visibility of security, I think, shot up in a lot of organisations. And it wasn't just no, you can't do that. No, turning that off, blocking that, stop it, you idiot, you've got to use this instead. I think there's been a lot more yes and understanding business cases and use cases and actually working together with different groups within the organisations to be able to find solutions. It might not be what they think they need, but it'll get them to where they need to go. And I've seen a lot of shifts on that, which is a benefit of having a pandemic, but I don't want another one, thanks.
Anyone else want to say that?
That was way better than anything I'd said.
Any more questions? No? Right. Thank you very much. Can we have a round of applause for